It is 1964. A researcher walks into an elementary school in San Francisco with a test. He tells the teachers that this test can predict which students are about to experience a major intellectual growth spurt. He identifies a group of children as academic bloomers, students supposedly ready for a sudden rise in intelligence. But here is the twist. Those children were chosen at random. There was no special gift, no secret talent, no hidden academic pattern, just a random label. 8 months later, the researcher returns, and the children who had been called bloomers show higher IQ gains than many of their classmates, especially in the younger grades. That researcher was Robert Rosenthal, working with Lenore Jacobson. Their 1968 study, later published as Pygmalion in the Classroom, asked one haunting question. Can someone else's expectations actually shape who we become? The answer was yes. And to understand why this matters, we need to go back to the myth behind the name. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Pygmalion was a sculptor who carved a woman from ivory. He made her perfect in his eyes. He dressed her, spoke to her, loved her, and believed in her so deeply that the goddess Aphrodite brought the statue to life. Now, of course, that is mythology, but the metaphor is powerful. The Pygmalion Effect describes what happens when high expectations lead to better performance. When someone believes in us, they often treat us differently, and that different treatment can slowly pull a stronger version of us into reality. Rosenthal and Jacobson saw this in the classroom. The teachers did not consciously decide to favor the students. They were not given special materials. There was no extra curriculum. But their belief changed their behavior in subtle ways. Rosenthal later described this through 4 main channels. First, climate. Teachers create a warmer, emotional atmosphere for students they believe in. More eye contact, more patience, more encouragement. Second, input. They give those students more challenging material because they assume they can handle it. Third, output. They give them more time to answer. That extra second sends a silent message, I believe you can think this through. And fourth, feedback. They offer more specific guidance instead of vague praise or quick correction. Now, none of these things look dramatic in the moment. No grand speech, no magical intervention, no inspirational music playing in the background. But over weeks and months, they become powerful. A child begins to feel seen, then capable, then willing to try. And this connects closely with Carol Dweck's research on mindset. Dweck showed that when students believe their ability can grow, they approach difficulty differently. They do not see failure as proof that they are not intelligent. They see it as information. So the teacher's belief does not only change the classroom, it can change the student's belief about themselves. But there is a darker side. If high expectations can lift people, low expectations can bury them. Dov Eden called this the Golem Effect. It is the opposite of the Pygmalion Effect. When instructors, managers, or parents expect less from someone, they often give less attention, less patience, less challenge, and less useful feedback. And then, the person performs worse. Not because they had no potential, but because the environment quietly trained them to expect less from themselves. Think about a student whose teacher sighs before calling on them. Think about an employee who only receives basic tasks because the manager has already decided they are not leadership material. Think about a child who keeps hearing, "Math is not really your thing." These comments may seem small, but repeated often enough, they become an inner voice. And this effect does not stop in schools. In management, J. Sterling Livingston made the Pygmalion Effect famous in his Harvard Business Review essay, Pygmalion in Management. His point was simple. Managers become sculptors of performance. When they expect excellence, they delegate more meaningful work. They coach more seriously. They communicate confidence. And employees often rise to that expectation. In military research, Dov Eden found similar patterns. When instructors believed certain trainees had high potential, even when that belief was randomly assigned, the trainees often performed better. And in healthcare, Ted Kaptchuk's work on placebo effects showed that the warmth, confidence, and manner of a clinician can influence patient outcomes. The treatment matters, but the human interaction around the treatment also matters. So why does this happen? Because human beings are social creatures. We partly learn who we are through how others respond to us. The sociologist Charles Cooley called this the looking glass self. In simple terms, we come to see ourselves through the reflections we perceive in other people's eyes. Modern social neuroscience supports this idea. Matthew Lieberman has shown that social acceptance and rejection are not minor emotional events. The brain treats social pain and social reward as deeply meaningful experiences. When people believe in us, we feel safer. When we feel safer, we take more risks. We ask questions. We try again. We recover faster from mistakes. Growth becomes possible because the environment no longer feels like a threat. And that is the real mechanism of the Pygmalion Effect. It is not magic. It is a loop. Someone forms an expectation about you. That expectation changes how they treat you. You absorb those signals. Your confidence, effort, and performance begin to shift. Then, your new performance seems to confirm the original expectation. The expectation did not need to be true at the beginning. It only needed to be transmitted. And that is why this idea is both hopeful and dangerous. It is hopeful because belief can help people grow. It is dangerous because low expectations can quietly limit people before they have a chance to prove themselves. And at the systemic level, this becomes even more serious. Claude Steele's work on stereotype threat showed that when people are reminded of a negative stereotype about their group before a test, their performance can suffer. Not because of ability, but because the pressure of expectation disrupts thinking itself. So the Pygmalion Effect is not only about one teacher and one student. It is about classrooms, workplaces, families, cultures. So, what do we do with this? We start by becoming more careful with the expectations we broadcast. If you are a teacher, ask the harder question and give the student time to answer. If you are a manager, do not give meaningful tasks only to the people who already seem confident. Build confidence by trusting people with real responsibility. If you are a parent, be careful not to turn temporary difficulty into identity. "You are struggling with this" is very different from "you are not good at this." And if you are speaking to yourself, remember Albert Bandura's work on self-efficacy. The belief that you can succeed in a specific situation affects the goals you set, the effort you sustain, and the resilience you show when things become difficult. You can become your own Pygmalion, or your own Golem. So let us return to the myth one last time. Pygmalion looked at something cold and still, and believed there was life inside it. Rosenthal's bloomers were not transformed by magic. They were transformed by the accumulated experience of being treated as capable, worthy, and full of possibility. Maybe that is the real lesson. When we genuinely believe in someone, we are not forcing them to become what we want. We are creating the conditions in which they can become what they already had the capacity to be. And sometimes, the difference between remaining a statue and becoming alive is the gaze of someone who believes there is more inside you. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Please, give this video a like if you found it informative, and subscribe for more Mind Shots. See you in the next video.